Let's take a look at video slide editing in Viewlet Builder 7. When you create a screen capture project or insert new screenshots into an existing project and use video capture mode, your captures will be converted to a video slide. As you can see here in the Projects tab, this is where we have a video slide. For the rest of this particular demo, we're going to go ahead and collapse the Project tab so we can look at the slide area of the video capture slide or the video slide. Now, while viewed from the timeline, the video slide, like traditional non-video slides, is made up of layers. At a minimum, you may see a cursor path, a video layer, and perhaps a sound layer. That in turn are the elements that combined make up the entire video slide. Like other slides, you can add slide elements to the video slide, such as balloons, notes, text boxes, cursors. You can add sound directly to the video slide itself, shapes, the new arrows, highlights, and so on. So for the most part, editing a video slide is the same as any other slide. Let's take a look at some of the examples that we can do while working with the video slide. Now keep in mind, we're not going to show you every conceivable thing you can do while working with a video slide. There's just too much to show in one short video, but we will show you some of the most common things you might encounter while working with a video slide. For example, you might want to go ahead and take a look at some of the elements that make up your cursor animation along your cursor path layer. Maybe you want to go ahead and right click and change the cursor style of any of your cursors, which you can easily do. Maybe we'll go ahead and change that to a crosshair. We can also go ahead and drag the transitional cursor anywhere along the cursor path. And while the cursor is selected, we get our second level toolbar, which allows us to edit some of the other elements that make up the cursor animation. For example, a new feature in Viewlet Builder 7, maybe we want to go ahead and let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit on this green cursor here and take a look at a feature that will allow us to add shadows. Right now, we don't have any shadow properties applied to the selected cursor, but if we want, we can go ahead and apply a shadow. We can change the offset. We can change the color that's applied to it. And we can go ahead and apply it. And if you look real close, you can see we have a shadow effect there. Maybe we want to go ahead and change the color back to something like this. And we can apply that as well. And if you look there, we have a black shadow applied. Or we can go ahead and just say maybe we don't want to have a shadow applied at all. We can also lock any of the points, for example, along the cursor path so that they can't be edited as well. We can come down here and we can hide the cursor path layer entirely if we want to maybe keep it in the project but not display it when we publish it out. We can also have it displayed. We can also prevent us from editing this layer at any point by locking the layer. So let's go ahead and unlock the cursor layer, and we can also opt to hide the video layer for whatever reason, and we can lock that layer as well if we're working with other objects along it, as well as if there's sound layers added directly to the video slide, we can opt to go ahead and lock those layers as well. So as you can see, these particular elements are pretty much the same if you've worked in Viewlet Builder before while editing your other traditional slides. Now let's go ahead and change the zoom. We're going to scroll back up. And let's go ahead and look at a couple other elements that you might want to add along the timeline. Now, if you're going to do this, you want to go ahead probably and select or switch over to time select mode, which is easily done while working in the video layer by clicking anywhere along the timeline at any specific interval to display the playhead. This switches you over to time select mode. Then just go ahead and drag the playhead or scrub the timeline with the playhead so that you can see and preview the animations that are occurring along the timeline. And maybe we want to go ahead at this point. Let's scroll here and we'll move our playhead, have it jump back to over here and drag it a little bit more. Maybe at this point we want to go ahead and zoom in on this particular part of our slide, which we can easily do by going ahead and using the zoom zone. So we can insert a zoom zone here, drag it up over here, maybe resize it a bit here. And then of course we're going to want to go ahead and click back here so that we're back in time select mode so we can see where it's going to zoom in at that point. And now your zoom of course will stay at that until we add another zoom zone. So maybe we want to go ahead right here. At this point introduce another zoom zone. And this particular zoom zone will go ahead and have it full screen so that when we go ahead and switch back to time select mode, we can see where it's going to go ahead and zoom in, and then it's going to zoom back out. Again, as you can see, it's very easy to edit while we're working along the timeline here. Again, one of the differences, however, is that we are in time select mode so that we can see in real time what's happening along the time layer as we scrub the timeline. So let's go ahead and let's scroll maybe a little bit more this way, see what's going on at this point. Maybe we want to come back here a little bit, and maybe along this interval of the timeline we want to use a feature such as an arrow to point something out. So we can go ahead and have an arrow pointing here. We can position it here. And of course we can go ahead and scrub the timeline to see where it's going to come in and out. And we can tweak this arrow as needed. Maybe we want it to stay displayed for a little bit longer. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and scrub again and see along here at this point. Maybe we want to go ahead and add something else, or we just want to let it play out as it is. And for this example, we'll look at a couple other features such as adding maybe an annotation or a balloon. For example, we'll go ahead and come towards the end of the timeline here where we still have audio playing, and again we can add audio at any point along the timeline directly to the slide. Or for example, maybe we want to go ahead at this point along the end of the timeline and add something that says, "That's all there is to it." Again, just like working with traditional slides, we're adding a note and editing it as we need. So maybe we want to go ahead and bold that, increase the font. Maybe we want to deselect it, drag it up a little bit, double click in here, change some of the alignment in it. We can actually go ahead and rewrap it that way, move it over here, and we get our context sensitive toolbar, which will allow us to add audio directly to this particular object. So we'll go ahead and do that as well. And we can go ahead and browse to find a sound, or let's move this in here. We can choose any of these stock sounds if we wanted to, or we can record directly to the note while we're inside Violet Builder 7. So let's go ahead and wait for the countdown animation. And we'll say that's all there is to it. We'll stop the sound. We can play it back as needed. We click OK. And as you look along the note layer here, we notice that the sound is added directly to the note itself. And again, while you're editing your video, you can add additional sounds as well directly to the video layer. So that's all there is to editing a video slide. Make sure that while you're doing it though, go ahead and switch over to time select mode by clicking anywhere along the timeline and scrubbing the timeline so that as you're adding and editing project elements, you're doing so at the correct interval along the timeline. Otherwise, it's as easy as editing traditional slides as in previous versions of Violet Builder. And as we say, that's all there is to it. For more information on this topic and other topics when working with Qarbon products, please visit us online at qarbon.com. That's Qarbon.com.